It's your old friend McGoganLives. Lives. And welcome back to the North Remembers. Boy, that name didn't age well, did it? Hey, speaking of which, do I have a fucking minefield for you today? Superhero movies. Oh God, please give it a rest. There seems to be about 10 coming out every year. What's next? Spider-Man 112? Peter Parker sits down and files his tax returns? But can you really blame Hollywood? These movies may be glorified Saturday morning cartoons, but they shit money thanks to the monumental medley of merchandise and man-children worshipping them like a cult. Wasn't always like this, you know. There was a time when these kinds of films weren't guaranteed to be blockbusters and allow you to live on a mountain of cocaine and rent boys. Take, for example, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, a movie with a sordid reputation. No, that isn't Hagrid if he'd been born in California. This is comic writer Alan Moore. Wrote shit like Watchmen, V for Vendetta, and From Hell, which in 2001 got made into a film that made a load of money and got Hollywood producers eager for, more. The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Moore's most modern mag, was selected by the High Council of 20th Century Fox to receive the cinema treatment. The ink wasn't even dry on the bastard, but you know how movie moguls love getting their hands on things that are underdeveloped. Besides, children's blood ain't cheap. Maybe children's blood reminded them of Blade, and its up-and-coming director Stephen Norrington, who was brought on board. Meanwhile, Sean Connery, out of pocket for not accepting the role of a wizard in some documentary about New Zealand, became the picture's prime punter-puller, clearly anticipating annuity from featuring in a fantasy flick. Ambitious director, big star, popular genre, the block was practically busted already, right?
There are reports that you punched the director. Was it a right hook or a left hook?
Apparently, Norrington and Connery fell out almost instantly and grew to fucking hate each other, arguing, almost coming to blows on set. An awful work environment, to say the least. Anyway, grab your laudanum and suspend your disbelief, and let's have a butcher's. Speaking of awful environments, we begin in London with a summary of 19th century European diplomacy. It's fucked. Down on the streets, an anachronic tank causes havoc. Probably just George Michael on a beer run. The bastard charges down the street, despite the resistance of the English bobbies. Oi, 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 oi. Grand larceny's the goal, as the steel swindler breaks the bank to make a withdrawal. The crewmen are Krauts, as if they haven't got enough money, led by this evil-looking dude. They make off with a MacGuffin, and Jerry is j'accused. And yet a month down the road we see the British getting a head start on Operation Paperclip, again led by this Gene Simmons-looking ass. With false flags fanning the flames of an imminent war, Britain sends a messenger to Kenya in search of a retired legend dossing about in an old people's home.
Where's Quatermain?
Jesus, look at the place. All those demented old fossils and their Union flags. Add a giant portrait of Princess Diana and I'd say we're in the offices of the Daily Express. Famed from Victorian fiction, this iteration of Alan Quatermain appears a little too retired. Good job it's a decoy named Nigel, employed by Connery's Quatermain.
For keeping the story seekers at bay.
Though, as you'll see, I think Nigel serves another secret purpose. Just watch. As the actual Alan is elucidated on Europe's woes and his own legacy.
Stories of your exploits have thrilled English boys.
I really don't like that sentence. A cohort of crooks arrive, also inquiring for Quatermain. There's Nigel's ulterior use, a fucking bullet shield against assassins. Real noble, Alan, letting an old man unknowingly sacrifice himself for you.
On Quatermain!
Story seeker's my arse. I don't feel sorry for Nigel. He was a Nazi. No, that was a lie. He was a devoted grandfather of 5. What a cunt. Although armoured and armed with industrial age AKs, the goons are gunned down. But the villa is vaporised, along with all its occupants. Bit of a nuisance. His hand forced, Alan arrives in London for a secret meeting.
You made good time getting here.
Not as good as Phileas Fogg. Around the world in 80 days.
Yes. It's a shame we couldn't secure the rights to use his likeness. Could have shaved 40 minutes off the movie.
Underneath the city, we meet M. Not that one, who is reforming the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, an elite enterprise of heroes tasked in safeguarding world stability from naughty lads like this one, called the Phantom. Not that one. Alan is assigned to lead this league, whose members already include Nemo, not that one, and an invisible man. Definitely not that one.
The movie makes it quite clear that it's not that one. I mean, for legal reasons.
See, this invisible man, ironically called Skinner, stole the serum from the OG Invisible Man, and now seeks an antidote.
Just go with it.
As an aside, the movie mentions that they are aware these attacks are the work of a terrorist seeking to spark a global conflict by framing European superpowers. I mean, wouldn't it make more sense to share this information with said superpowers so that they might, not start World War Zero?
Oh, L.X.G. We thought it was you. Well, why don't we join forces and catch this terrorist?
Straw grasping over, a fourth recruit emerges, Mina Harker, widow of Dracula protagonist Jonathan, and the League's leader in the comics, with Quatermain being a doped-up dotard. Old Alan wastes no time in working his wily charm on her.
Please tell me this is Harker's wife with a sick note. I'm waiting to be impressed.
I've had women along on past exploits and found them to be, at best, a distraction.
Jesus, calm down, Grandad. I guess you do grow more right-wing the older you get.
With two potential members still out there to be enlisted, the League set out on a recruitment drive. Literally.
I call it an automobile.
Really? I call it a bit much.
Down at the docks, we're introduced to Oscar Wilde's Dorian Gray, who's been blueballing the League so far.
I'm not interested.
Jesus, I hate this character. I swear, all his dialogue in this movie could be replaced by him going, ooh.
In his house, it's implied Gray and Mina are previously acquainted, and extra light is shed on Alan's halcyon years.
Say you're indestructible, Quatermain.
Well, a witch doctor did bless me once. He said Africa would never allow me to die.
Yes. Also, this man called Chekhov gave me this gun and said I should fire it at some point. Otherwise, he wouldn't have given it to me in the first place.
Unfortunately, the Phantom and his feckless cronies are there to trash the tiffin, informed of the League's intentions. One of these faceless fiends is a little too charismatic to be an extra, however.
Junior?
If you're gonna have your soldiers use machine guns, maybe you should train them first.
I mean, a medley of machine guns in an enclosed area. Surely the volume of fire alone will ensure these imbeciles hit somebody, even if it's by accident. Stormtroopers are more accurate. American drone strikes are more accurate.
Throw your pistol! I walk a different path.
Oh, okay.
You see how fucking simple it is? The fray functions to exhibit the uniqueness of two individuals. Dorian's invincible, and Mina's a vampire.
Nice.
They emerge victorious, but the Phantom flees. And we're introduced to our mystery guest, Mark Twain's Tom Sawyer, who's a federal agent. Dorian ditches playing hard to get and signs on.
On the contrary, the battle...
Would it hurt to have any other emotion besides smarm, Gray? I mean, your library couldn't be in worse shape if Frank Spencer popped round to borrow a fucking book. Sawyer, being a Fed, knows all about false flag incidents and is brought along too. Sawyer is a studio imprint on the film, as a League of Limeys was thought to be a bit too cultured for colonist audiences.
The fucking Americans!
Another infliction of their interfering is Harker, who remains a vampire after dealing with Dracula, contrary to the comic and novel. Supernatural sells, though, so fuck Wadey Beatty and that Irish prick.
So what if she's a former vampire hunter, and the act of making her a vampire herself makes her seem like Abraham Van Hypocrite? Vampires!
With the last League aspirant presently in Paris, Nemo's nautical knowledge comes into play.
Behold, Nautilus, the sword of the ocean.
Snazzy car? Fancy boat? How's middle age treating you, Captain? What? Let me just assure you, we're all impressed by the size of your, sword.
Oh shit. Robin Cook's on a bender again. Now this is Mr. Hyde, who is quickly captured thanks to Quatermain's keen wits. Hyde's hardly happy about it, mind.
This hunt's too dangerous for a woman, even one such as you.
Hey, now leave the bad Sean Connery impressions to me. Please. It's like 70% of the script.
Wanting answers, the group gather around the rampaging recidivist.
Stay back, if you value your life.
Yes, there's no way two immortal creatures and an invisible man could be of any help.
The promise of pardon and a ticket back to London reins in the rampaging Hyde and his snivelling sauce Dr. Jekyll.
At your service.
The fully staffed team set their sights on Venice, where the Phantom intends to interrupt a peace conference. You know, by blowing it up. Hence the MacGuffin at the movie's start. Trapped together at sea, tempers, temptations and mistrust soon mount.
Or it's my put up your arse.
Actually, I think that last bit was Connery shouting at the director again.
Excluding Alan and Sawyer, of course, who bond over shooting a giant fucking rifle into the sea. That's a genuine 18th century rifle there, not a prop. Observe how both actors struggle to keep it steady. Yet more insight is unveiled about Alan, in that he once had an heir who bought it on one of Pop's adventures. Fucking work experience kid. Seems Sawyer here might just fill a sun's-shaped hole in his heart, at least until he touches a nerve.
Did you teach your son to shoot like this?
No, his son kind of developed his own style.
I don't have to stand here and listen to this shit. More suspicions are abound as Alan espies Nemo kneeling before a Hindu death goddess. It's not a phase.
Nemo worships death. Can we trust him?
Bitch.
I may have added that in. Then again, maybe not. I mean, can you honestly tell?
Also, someone on board's been taking photos of the Nautilus and nicked Jekyll's angry juice. All fingers stand pointed at Skinner, or at least in his general vicinity. Meanwhile, Poppycock Dorian elaborates about his notorious picture, which was nabbed from his house.
Every year that passes, my portrait ages. Instead of me, I dare not look upon it myself.
Really? Because it looked like it was hanging on your wall, pal. Kind of hard to miss, actually. I mean, Alan noticed it was missing. Christ, I could use a drink and all.
Good God! I mean, with all this death worship, blood and friskiness, it's like they put Jonestown on a fucking boat!
We arrive in Assassin's Creed 2 to foil the Phantom.
Do you think maybe he's compensating for something?
He intends to blow up Da Vinci's underwater foundations that hold the city aloft, sinking the city and its peace conference and triggering world war. With no time to waste, the League spring into action. Unfortunately, they spend so much time looking cool that the bombs detonate. The team jump aboard Nemo's cry for help and peel off to rescue the city, except Jekyll, who refuses to unleash his creation.
Then what good are you?
The plan is to reach a key building and stop the domino effect of collapse by signaling Nemo to fire a guided missile at it. Immediately, the Phantom's henchmen are upon them, and to be honest, it's quite a thrilling action piece, in spite of some CGI silliness.
Vampire bag. Vampire bag.
With Dorian and Mina occupied and Alan spotting the Phantom and giving chase, it's down to Sawyer to reach the building and signal the missile strike.
Mine gun ready! Fire!
We stopped the terrorists!
Quatermain corners Phantom in a graveyard. The villain down to base insults at this point.
You run from the memory of your son's death. You should have trained him a little better. You're weak.
Mate, you're the one running away like a sissy. A disfigured sissy.
I know all about your spy.
Do you?
You might want to sit down for this. It turns out Skinner ain't the spy, Dorian is.
Oh no, not Dorian. He seems so friendly, and on the level.
Not only that, but the Phantom is demasked to reveal M, the League's founder.
Ooh, the plot's getting thicker than Connery's speech impediment.
M and Dorian scarper separately, the latter in a giant Beyblade.
We can track it.
I intend to catch it!
Nautilus is in hot pursuit, tracking Dorian, when one of the crew discovers his mixtape.
From this.
A recording disc?
Actually, it's a recording of Villainy 101, the antagonist explaining his plan, in the most pretentious possible way, I might add.
Likes the sound of his own voice, doesn't he?
So the whole League lark was a ploy for M to have Grey steal crucial components of what made the members extraordinary in the first place, so he can replicate it, sell it all to Europe, and then kick back and collect on the chaos. A bit like Syria. I can comprehend nicking Nemo's tech, although it appears already M's manufactured tanks, tow launchers, assault rifles, submersibles, and body armour, but isn't an army of vampires, invisible men, and whatever Hyde is, kinda over-egging the pudding of European power play a pinch? Although, I'll admit, a world war weaved around gothic horror is just begging for its own film. Sounds cool as shit! M even addresses the idiocy of revealing his ruse to them. He had Dorian plant bombs around the boat, with the record being a remote trigger.
Why are you telling them this? Let alone your entire fucking plan along with it!
The schmuck spiel ends with our villains trying to outsmarm each other.
Bon voyage.
And Grey's gifts detonate. Oh, come on, you can see the bloody wires! Nautilus springs a leak, and the League look doomed to a watery grave. But Jekyll chugs a jug of juju and assigns Hyde to plumbing duty.
And he just roared underwater. I mean, what is this, Jaws 4?
The League are saved from the Leagues and set about repairing their ravaged vessel and taking it in turns to give Mina the old bedroom eyes. If Skinner ain't the spy, where's he been all this time? Turns out he clocked Dorian's deceit early on and has stowed away on the Beyblade ship. He feeds them coordinates, and with Dorian's destination now known, the Nautilus continues the chase. The pursuit leads them to Mongolia. The League show off their winter collection tracking down M's secret base, which looks like Santa's workshop if he delivered regime changes in lieu of presents. I'm freezing my balls off. Skinner rejoins them, signalling his arrival by snatching Mina's undead arse.
I thought this was 20th Century Fox, not the Weinstein Company.
We're brought up to speed on Skinner's absence. He didn't think they trusted him.
With all the suspicion on the ship, I knew you wouldn't believe I wasn't the spy.
Honestly, this movie has bigger red herrings than the fucking Nautilus.
He fills us in on the layout of M's lair. We can add ballistic missiles, bulletproof suits, and bootleg Nautili to M's arsenal. though I don't think his professors have perfected the CG machines yet. I mean, the effects earlier on looked pretty good, especially the Invisible Man. This sequence looks like it was ripped from a 90s music video. As M stupidly stated, he's also duplicating their DNA in there. For a fellow with the funds to finance building a foundry in fucking Narnia, this all seems like a lot of faffing. But hey,
we've got to have money.
The League launch their attack, and the movie can't help get a little Saturday morning on us. Nemo and Hyde rescue the captive scientists and slaves working against their will for M. No! Mina makes for Dorian, about to abscond with his miserable painting, his reward for selling them out. Skinner redecorates, and Alan and Sawyer target M himself. Sounds like a finale to me! A guard is practically allowed to escape, and the alarm is raised. Upstairs, Alan and Sawyer corner M. The initial, we learn, stands for Moriarty. Not that one. He escapes! Again. Elsewhere, Mina and Dorian duke it out, though mutual immortality makes this fight a bit fruitless.
We'll be at this all day.
You're painting.
I hoped I'd get to nail you one more time. I didn't think it'd be literally.
Sawyer gets separated from Quatermain and meets an M-brand Invisible Man. Shit. Moriarty's stolen Stark Industries science and all. Back downstairs, Hyde may have met his match, as one of the baddies necks a flask of his formula.
Not the whole thing.
Skinner saves Sawyer at the last second, and gets a coat of napalm for his trouble.
Goose-stepping morons like yourself should try reading books instead of burning them.
You were so lovely.
She's not dead, mate. She's not dead. Oh, shit. This retarded faux pas proves disastrous, as Mina gives Gray's portrait a grand unveiling.
You spoke once of wanting to meet your demon. Here he is.
Oh, Jesus! Oh, God! Oh! Oh, Jesus! God! Oh!
With a final Gray turns to ash, like the careers of everyone in this movie. Skinner isn't much healthier. Barbecued saving Sawyer, who gets captured by the discount Invisible Man anyway. We rejoin Hyde, who's doing even worse. A double dose of the Doctor's voodoo has turned the henchman from before into a Twitch streamer. Hyde exhausts his angry juice and reverts to Jekyll. Cornered in a culvert, is this curtains for Nemo and the Doc? On the topmost tower, Moriarty also finds himself cornered, by Quatermain in this case. In this desperate moment, there's only one thing for a villain to do.
He starts monologuing.
Skinner's boomsticks blow, providing Nemo and Jekyll with both an exit and an end to their assailant.
Get this shit off me!
Shoot him!
You ever get tired of being wrong?
Shoot him!
Me, Skinner, wrong.
See? I just spared you the last 10 minutes of this movie. Sawyer needs saving, so Alan turns to terminate the transparent hostage taker, getting shanked by M in the process. Utilising Alan's lessons from before, son surrogate Sawyer takes the shot, bringing Moriarty and his warmongering to an end.
Always with the negative waves, Moriarty. Always with the negative waves.
Victory has its price, however, as Sawyer witnesses Quatermain ascend to the great golf course in the sky. Our final scene brings us back to Kenya, as the League inter Alan into the ground, presumably next to all those dead pensioners from the start.
You remember he swore Africa wouldn't let him die? I wish the old boy had been right.
Yeah, well, I'm certain that speech from before will have no bearing on the end of this movie.
As the League depart for more adventures, Sawyer places a literal Chekhov's gun on Alan's freshly dug grave, and we end on some serious sequel bait.
And what a pointless bit of sequel bait that is, because this film ain't getting a sequel, that's for damn sure.
To quote Empire magazine back in 2008, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen wasn't just a flop, it wasn't just a nightmare shoot. It caused the retirement of one of Hollywood's biggest names, drove its rising star director into the wilderness, and hammered the careers of virtually everyone involved. Connery's conflict with relative newbie Norrington is the League's lasting legacy, an infamous incident of filmmaking feuds. Opening night, when asked where Norrington was, the actor recommended checking the local asylums. Connery called it quits following the film's dismal reception, disillusioned with movie making and retiring from the screen for good. Crystal Skull was supposed to have Henry Jones rejoin his son, but the character had to be killed off instead. Norrington also exiled himself, so soured was he by L.X.G's prickly production. In fact, most of the individuals involved in this movie have suffered from curtailed careers. It's bizarre to see the League's legend bleed over into the rest of Hollywood. But what about the film on its own? Barring all that backstage bollocks. Personally, I think the film is competently made and perfectly enjoyable. A movie themed around a globe-trotting adventure in a steampunk setting is an inspired idea, even today. The action sequences are thrilling for the most part, particularly Venice. Connery gives a good performance as Quatermain, I think more down to experience than enthusiasm. I also enjoyed Captain Nemo, played by this guy. However, while the movie opens strong, I think it starts to sag around the middle mark. I found most of the characters and their interactions kind of bland, which is bad considering that this is what most of the film revolves around. I also found the villain's motive uninspiring. I mean, all that just for money? If he was trying to start a war because of a personal vendetta against Europe, or grandiose ambition, instead of wanting to be a glorified arms dealer, then I think that would have been worth all the trouble he went through. There is also some questionable CGI, but considering how old the movie is, I think that's forgivable, especially when a lot of it looks quite impressive. Getting out the old shite or alright meter, my verdict? It's alright. Has its ups and downs, but does more things right than wrong. In spite of what Empire magazine stated, L.X.G didn't actually flop, but it was considered a disappointment when compared to contemporaries like The Return of the King and Pirates of the Caribbean. Measly box office returns and incendiary on-set egos torpedoed any dreams for a sequel. And with so much time passed since then and now, I think it's safe to assume that a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen resurgence is about as likely as Sean Connery starring in it.
That's a bit of a fucking downer, isn't it? Well, I've been McGoganLives. Cheers for watching. Hey, join me next episode, or next geological epic, whichever comes first, where things will be getting gothic. Just a little bit sexy.
S with an H, shaken not stirred. Give it a try. I'm sure you'll prefer your S with an H. You're winning the race. Always follow your S with an H.
Rule Britannia.